The Story Droid presents The Barber, a short story written by Andrew Dresner. All rights reserved. Narrated by using the voice Fenrir in Google Gemini 2.5 Pro Preview. This is a work of fiction. Names, characters, businesses, events, and incidents are the products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. Please don't continue listening if you're triggered by situations centered around adult language and some violence.
It's weird, David Solomon said.
What's that? Joe Hager asked.
Have you been listening to me?
No, all I want to do is eat in peace.
You come in here every day was filled the place.
The two sat at the counter as they have done for many years. Hager, a jeweler, and Solomon, a barber. Samantha always waited on them. The same faces coming into the shop until now, Solomon said. What do you care? Doesn't he pay? Hager asked. I'm not saying that. It's just odd that this young man comes in with someone different every week. He's polite, but the one getting the cut says nothing. How can you blame him? You can't keep your trap shut for a second. Enough, you two. You're bothering my other customers, Samantha said, bringing more coffee. Hey, what do you think about Solomon's story? Hager asked while pouring sugar. The guy could be a therapist, bringing clients in for haircuts, Samantha said. Nah, he looks too young to be a head shrinker, Solomon said. And why would you say that? Because when you cut my hair, I definitely want to see a shrink right after, Hager said as Samantha frowned. That's because you don't have much hair left, Solomon said. Bert Becker, an engineer at SynthLab, was barely visible, papers piled high and scattered across his desk. A robot called Mark 10 had just been finished and was waiting for first light, which is what they called powering it on for the first time. It would need to be brought to the barber and was scheduled for deployment the following week. Bert grabbed his clipboard and headed down to the observation room. He looked through the large window. It was filled with tables. Upon them sat newly fashioned robots, all under white sheets except one. Joe Volker, senior designer, had just put on its shoes. The robot Demo 1 was unpacking a prep cart, its metallic head reflecting off the overhead lights. Hey, are you almost done? Bert asked as he knocked on the glass after realizing they couldn't hear him. He put on white coveralls, pulled the hood over his head, and opened the door to an airlock. A hissing sound proceeded with a tone indicating he was cleared to open the inner door. It's been days since he'd gotten any sleep, just surviving on coffee and an occasional meal. Bert walked between the rows of tables, trying to make out the various forms beneath the sheets. A muted tap could be heard coming from the floor above. They must be running a sequence. The press stamping patterns into newly extruded robot skin, Bert thought. How's it hanging, Bert? Demo 1 asked. Hey, who taught you that? Bert asked. First of all, that's not appropriate, and second of all, do you even know what that means? Hey, Bert, give him a break. He's been working the same hours we are, Joe said, eyes red. Yes, I do know. It's when the That's enough. Glad you have time to look into these things. How about you just focus on the work? Bert asked. The robot nodded and continued to adjust the diagnostic equipment. Joe wrapped straps around the newly fashioned robot. He pulled the handle, which produced a clicking sound as he tightened it. Have you decided on what style you want for this one? Bert asked as Joe pulled out a sketch. Nice, I like it, Demo 1 said. The new robot's blonde hair wrapped the sides of its head and draped onto the table. Why don't we just leave it the way it is? He looks like the guy from Die Hard, Joe said. Yes, the actor who was a Russian ballet dancer. He was badass, Demo 1 said. You've been hitting the internet pretty hard lately, Joe said, now laughing. You guys are hysterical. Can we please speed this up? Need to bring him to the barber, Bert said.
The ride to the barber would take 30 minutes, the morning sky clear and traffic light. Bert hailed a cab and they climbed into it. How's it going? The driver asked as Bert gave him the address and quickly fell asleep. You don't talk much, the driver said, looking back at Mark 10. They cut in and out of the flow of cars as they passed through a series of neighborhoods. As they pulled up to the front of the shop, Bert opened his eyes and began to rub them. He paid the driver and they both got out. The street was full of people moving in and out of the shops that lined both sides. A diner in the center seemed popular. The barber shop was dark, with a note that was attached to the door. It said they were taking lunch and would return at 1. It was approaching 2 p.m. as Bert looked at his watch, then nodded to Mark 10, and made their way across the street to the diner. "How many?" a woman asked, holding a couple of menus. Her powder blue uniform reminded Bert of something he saw in an old movie. "I was wondering, do you know the barber? We're looking for him," Bert asked. The woman turned away. "Hey, Sam, have you seen Mr. Solomon?" A waitress a few tables away shook her head while pouring coffee. "No, haven't seen him," the waitress said as she came over. "He's always with Mr. Haggard, the jeweler. They eat together every day. I'm Samantha, and you must be the therapist," Samantha said as Bert turned his head. "I need to find Mr. Solomon. Do you have any idea where he is? It's so odd that he didn't come in for lunch. And by the way, who are you guys?" "I'm Bert Becker, and this is Mark 10, a newly fashioned robot. I bring robots to the barber and have a tight deadline. Need to get this one done ASAP." Samantha moved in close to Mark 10 and looked into its eyes. "That's some story," she said. "Do you have any idea where he might be? A sign on the door to his shop said he'd only be closed for an hour," Bert said.
Hold on, she said, walking away and then returning with her coat. "Hey, Liz, I'm taking these two over to Hager's. He might know where he is." "No need. If you direct me where to go, I'm sure we can find him," Bert said. "I've been cooped up here since early. Really could use some air," Samantha said as Bert nodded. They followed Samantha around the corner, and they could see the jewelry store at the end of the block. Samantha was in front of them, had her hands in her pockets, and swung them from side to side as she walked. They came to the door. It had its shade drawn and a closed sign hung behind it. She knocked on the glass with no answer. Bert and Mark 10 stood next to her, and they briefly saw someone peek from behind the shade. Samantha knocked again. "Mr. Hager?" "Go away, we're closed," a voice called from inside. "That's not Mr. Hager," Samantha said. "Excuse me, we're looking for Mr. Solomon." "Go away," another voice said. "I'm calling the police," Samantha said. "No need for that," Mr. Hager said as the door opened. "Hey, Mr. Hager, what's going on?" Samantha asked as they entered. The door closed behind them with a slam. A man with a blue shirt rushed over and hit Mr. Hager. He fell to the floor with blood running from a gash on the side of his head. Another man in a red shirt came from behind one of the counters and was pointing a gun at them. "What the hell's the matter with you? Why'd you have to hit him?" Solomon said, running over to Hager. "Get away from him," Red Shirt said, pulling Solomon away. "I told you taking this place during the day was a bad idea," Blue Shirt said. "Shut up," Red Shirt hissed. "How about you take what you want and get out of here," Hager said. Some of the glass counters had been smashed and a bat was leaning against one of them. Samantha stood next to Bert and Mark 10. Solomon helped Haggard to a nearby stool, pulled out a handkerchief, and handed it to him. Haggard dabbed at the side of his head. The two men stood at the door, peering out behind the shade. "Samantha, you brought some friends," Haggard said. "That's the guy I've been telling you about." "The tall fella don't know him," Solomon said. "He's a robot," Samantha said, pointing at Mark 10. "Hey, young man, what kinds of cockamamie stories you telling her?" Solomon asked. "How about you all shut the hell up?" Blue Shirt said. They could hear sirens in the distance that seemed to be getting louder. Red Shirt was still at the door. Blue Shirt continued to smash counters and gather up more jewelry. He crammed them into what looked like a faded pillowcase. "Which one of you dumbasses called the cops? I'm gonna beat the piss out of you," Red Shirt said. "Hey, we're screwed. Look at him," Blue Shirt's voice cracking. Red Shirt ran over to Haggard, pulled him off the stool, and dragged him across the store. "You stupid bastard, you call the cops? I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. Now give me the keys to the back door," Red Shirt asked. "I haven't got 'em," Haggard said, pulling away. "How about you put the gun down and leave?" Bert said. "What we got here, a hero?" Blue Shirt asked. They could hear cars pull up in front of the shop and sirens trailing off one after the other. "Mr. Haggard, you okay?" a voice called from outside. Red Shirt picked up Haggard and pulled him to the door. "Tell him it's a false alarm."
"False alarm, everything's okay," Hager said, and then reached his hand in front of the shade and wiped blood onto it.
"You're one stupid idiot." Red Shirt said as he pushed Hager into one of the display cases. He bounced off of it and hit the floor with a dull thud. "What the hell's wrong with you?" Samantha said as she ran to him, took off her coat and placed it under his head. Solomon raised his arms and then put them down. "You two sit next to the old man," Blue Shirt said as Bert nodded to Mark 10. Bert knelt over Hager and took his pulse. Mark 10 sat with his back against a display case. The carpet was covered with glass all around them. Red Shirt handed Blue the gun and went to the back of the shop. They could hear the sound of him pounding on metal, but not long after he returned. "The door's like it was built by Fort Knox. What the hell do we do now?" Red Shirt asked. "We're getting out of here and with the take. I ain't dealing with no cops," Blue Shirt said. "While you've been fumbling around, I'm sure the cops are at the back door too," Solomon said. "Ah, shit, you think he's right?" Blue Shirt asked. "You gonna believe him? He just wants us to give up. We got hostages. We're getting out of here, no problem," Red Shirt said as the phone rang. "You answer it," Blue Shirt said, tossing Samantha the phone. "Yes, 2 of them and 5 of us. Yes, one of them has a gun. They want to leave," Samantha said as she handed the phone back to Blue Shirt. "What'd they say?" Blue Shirt asked. "The cops think you're both stupid," Hager said faintly. "You got that right, my friend," Solomon said. "Shut up," Red Shirt said. "What did the cops say?" "Give yourselves up and it'll be less difficult for you on the other end," Samantha said.
"Okay, smartass," Red Shirt said, reaching down and pulling a chain off Samantha's neck. Bert jumped up, tackled him to the floor, and began punching him in the face. Blue Shirt ran over, pulled Bert off, and had the gun pointed at him. "I'm gonna kill you," Blue Shirt said, while helping Red Shirt up. Bert backed away and was sitting next to Mark 10. Red Shirt walked over and punched him in the face. Mark 10 then put up his arm in an attempt at blocking him. Bert grabbed Mark 10's arm and pulled it away. "Are you gonna try something, tough guy?" Red Shirt asked while looking at Mark 10. Samantha was holding the handkerchief to Mr. Hager's head. Mr. Solomon was sitting on the opposite side of the room with his back against one of the display cases. Red Shirt was wiping sweat from his forehead as Blue Shirt tapped the gun against the side of a display case. He kept his eyes on Mark 10. "What's up with you? Are you retarded or something?" Red Shirt asked, then grabbed the gun from Blue Shirt and walked over to Mark 10. He held it to the side of his head. "You got anything to say?" "That was my fault. Leave him alone," Bert said. "Oh, really?" Red Shirt said, shoving Mark 10's head. The phone rang, and Blue Shirt tossed it to Samantha. "They want to know when you're coming out. They haven't got all day." "Cops got jokes, don't they? How about I shoot one of you?" Red Shirt asked. "Did you hear that?" Samantha said into the phone. "They don't believe you. That we have a gun, or we'll shoot someone?" Blue Shirt asked. "What do you think this is? Some kind of game?" Red Shirt asked. "Look, boys, you're in over your head. How about you put the gun down and give up?" Solomon asked. "Hell no," Red Shirt said. "You let the others go and keep me as a hostage. We head into Manhattan and lose the cops in some crowd somewhere. I'll keep 'em busy while you get away," Hager said.
"I knew you're crazier than a loony. This confirms it. No way will I let you do that alone. Take me too," Solomon said. "The both of you, shut up," Red Shirt said, then pulled Blue Shirt to the back of the shop. "That was brave, but stupid," Solomon said. "Unfortunately, I've been involved in something similar. I visited a repair shop and met up with a big drug dealer. He was a lot smarter than these two," Bert said. "What kind of shop was that?" Hager asked. "The guy we were visiting repairs robots. He occasionally helps us with difficult cases," Bert said as he reached over to Mark 10, pulled up his shirt and attached a wire to the robot and then to his phone. "So you really make robots?" Samantha asked. "Yeah, the government leases quite a few of them, and we've started to build ones for industrial use," Bert said. "I've never seen any robots. I like a good yarn from time to time, but boy, we're in a heap of trouble. These 2 knuckleheads are bound to kill someone," Solomon said. "It's common for people to not believe. For some, it's ruined their lives. Others have gotten opportunities. We're making so many nowadays. Now we need help from people like you." "What are you talking about, boy? I'm just an old barber," Solomon said. Red Shirt ran over, grabbed Samantha, and dragged her to the front door.
He put the gun to her head as Blue Shirt opened it. "You see this? I'm tired of you screwing around. I'll shoot this stupid bitch and won't stop until you get us a car and get out of the way," Red Shirt said. Blue Shirt slammed the door as Red Shirt shoved Samantha away from it. She stumbled, fell onto the floor, and cut her hands on some glass, palms bloodied. Bert pulled her over, and Mark 10 tore one of his sleeves. He handed the fabric to Bert, who divided them up and wrapped Samantha's hands. She nodded while wiping away tears as the phone rang.
"You're not going to believe this," Fred Giffrey said as he entered a conference room at Synflab. Peter Berman, the CEO, was sitting at the far end of the table. The sun still shone brightly as it was almost 3 p.m. Fred grabbed a glass of water and sat down across from Peter. "I leave it to you guys to get these things done without a ton of meetings. I hate the thought of a decision by committee, or worse, by me. I now see I have no choice. Your people go to the worst neighborhoods and contract less than quality people to work with," Peter said. "I can't disagree. We'll do better," Fred said. Peter nodded. "Sorry, didn't mean to snap at you. I know you guys are doing the best you can. It's just, I never thought it'd be such a pain in the ass to run this place." "Once the Sentinel program is up and running, we'll have more internal support," Fred said. "We've got a ton of hurdles to overcome. I'm heading to Washington to meet with Homeland Security. If they like what they see, it'll cut through a ton of red tape. How'd they end up at a jewelry store anyway?" "Not sure. All I know is that Bert took Mark 10 to get a haircut." "Can we tap into Mark 10? "Unfortunately, we can't. He's not connected to the network." "What's wrong with it?" "This one is destined for NASA. No Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or cellular allowed." "How's that supposed to work?" "We furnished him with a data port." "Sounds archaic," Peter said. "I agree. How unfortunate," Fred said. "I've been looking all over for you guys. What the hell's going on?" Rick Compton said, walking in. Fred filled Rick in, and he slammed his hand down on the table. "Can't agree with you more," Peter said. "How about we send in an extraction team?" "They have hostages. Not a good idea for this one, and the police are already there," Fred said, turning on the screen and switching to a news channel. "Oh, great. Front page. I can only imagine what tomorrow's paper is going to look like," Peter said. "The cops don't know who all the hostages are. We might be able to keep this quiet," Fred said. "Where are you going?" Rick asked. "To find something to drink," Fred said. The light began to fade from behind the shades at the front of the store. Red Shirt took the group one by one to the bathroom. Blue Shirt stood by holding the bat. "Hey you, don't you need the can?" Red Shirt asked. "Why don't you leave that boy alone?" Hager asked. "You keep out of this, old man," Red Shirt said as Bert sat back down next to Mark 10. "What's taking the cops so long to get us some wheels?" Blue Shirt asked. "Did we get it all?" Red Shirt asked, reaching for the pillowcase from the floor. "What about cash?" Blue Shirt shrugged. Hager sat up, picked up Samantha's coat, and wrapped it around her. She patted his hands as he did it. The blood had seeped through the fabric, and Mark 10 pulled off his other sleeve. Bert re-wrapped her hands as she winced. "How about you give me the combination to the safe?" Red Shirt asked. "I don't have it," Hager said. "Cut the shit. Write the combo down now," Blue Shirt said, throwing a pad and pen at Hager. "You go get it from him and come with me," Red Shirt said while pointing at Mark 10. "Hold on a minute," Bert said. "You stay out of this or I'll beat the piss out of you," Red Shirt said as Bert nodded. Mark 10 got up. Red Shirt handed Blue Shirt the gun and pulled him to the back of the shop. "Try anything and my brother will shoot the shit out of one of them," he said. They stopped at a file cabinet and Red Shirt opened a panel exposing an old green safe. Mark 10 turned the dial back and forth, stopped, and pulled the lever. The door swung open and Red Shirt reached in. Mark 10 took the door and slammed it into Red Shirt's hand. Everyone turned as he began screaming. Mark 10 released the door, slammed Red Shirt's head into the corner of the safe, and he then fell to the floor. Blue Shirt ran over and pointed the gun at Mark 10 and fired. Everyone jumped as Mark 10 collapsed. Red Shirt stumbled to his feet and began kicking Mark 10. Blood was flowing from a gash on his forehead. The phone began to ring, breaking the silence. Blue Shirt grabbed it and tossed it to Samantha. "Yeah, they shot one of us," Samantha said as tears ran down her face. "Tell them to take us serious or we'll kill more of you. Where's the damn car?" Blue Shirt asked, voice cracking. Bert was about to get up as Red Shirt walked over. "If you get up, I'll make you dead like your friend." And he grabbed the gun and hit him in the head, knocking him unconscious. Samantha could barely hold the phone since her hand was shaking.
Haggard crawled over to Bert, pulled him over, and checked his breathing. Solomon was about to help, but then decided not to. Blue Shirt went to the safe and was emptying its contents into the pillowcase. Red Shirt stumbled over to get a better look. "They're coming in," Samantha whispered to Haggard as she hung up. "What'd they say?" Red Shirt asked. "They have a car ready and will pull it around in 5 minutes," Samantha said. They finished clearing out the safe and Bert began to stir. Red Shirt kicked Mark 10 as he walked past him and joined Blue Shirt in the middle of the store. The front door exploded as 2 armored cops entered. Blue Shirt grabbed Samantha and pulled her close and held the gun to her head. He put his face into her blonde hair and took a deep breath. "Back off or I'll shoot this pretty little thing," Blue Shirt said. Everyone turned when they heard a loud crash. Red Shirt was on top of one of the display cases, laying motionless. Blue Shirt turned to look, and that's when one of the cops advanced and then tripped. He ended up on the floor against one of the display cases, his gun a few feet away, and had his hands up. "Hey Ron, you okay?" Blue Shirt called. "What the hell did you do to my brother?" Haggard, Solomon, and Bert shook their heads. The other cop stood with his hands up and a rifle slung onto his back.
"Listen, I'm Quigley and that's Ross. Put the gun down and we can check on your brother. He looks pretty bad." "You get back or I'll off this stupid bitch," Blue Shirt said and turned the gun on Quigley. "Get the hell out of here." And he then put the gun back to Samantha's head. The cop got up and they both backed out, with one of them grabbing his rifle before leaving. "What the hell did you do to him?" Blue Shirt said as spit ran down his mouth. "I'm gonna kill her." "It's time for this to be over," a voice called out from the back of the store. "What the hell? Who is that?" Blue Shirt asked as he was pulling Samantha with him. Mark 10 stood up and was facing them. They all could see a small hole in his chest where he'd been shot, no blood present. He approached them and Blue Shirt aimed the gun at him and fired. They saw the bullet exit his back and hit the wall. He continued to advance, grabbed the gun and flung it across the room. Mark 10 pulled Blue Shirt away from Samantha. She tripped, then Solomon and Bert caught her. Mark 10 held on to Blue Shirt and lifted him off the floor, one hand around his neck and the other by his belt. The police began to stream in and then guided everyone out. Mark 10 was still holding Blue Shirt as Quigley approached. "Put me the fuck down," Blue Shirt said. "You understand. I couldn't let you hurt these people," Mark 10 said as he dropped Blue Shirt to the floor. "What the hell is going on? Why aren't you dead?" Blue Shirt asked as he was cuffed. "I'm a robot built by SynthLab, destined to be evaluated by NASA for a proposed mission. I was brought to have my hair cut. You and your brother, Ron Selden, detained Mr. Solomon and the others. This is Reuben Selden," Mark 10 said to Quigley. "How the fuck does he know who we are?" Blue Shirt asked as he was pulled from the shop.
Mark 10 headed out to the street and passed a couple of medics who came in to get Ron Selden. He began to stir as they pushed a gurney through the door to a waiting ambulance. The night was cool, and he could see Solomon and Haggard in the back of an ambulance. Samantha was in another being treated. Bert was sitting on the tailgate holding an ice pack to the side of his head, and Mark 10 was standing next to them. "I didn't think this day was going to be this crazy," Samantha said. "You still looking for a haircut?" Solomon asked as he limped over. "We can come back another time," Bert said. "Don't be silly. I'll take you around the block and we'll tame that mop of yours," Solomon said, grabbing Mark 10's arm and began pulling him down the block. Bert helped Samantha climb down from the ambulance. He touched her face and then wrapped his arms around her. She did the same and squeezed him tightly before letting go. He moved in close and kissed her. She dropped her arms around his neck. They stepped away from each other. Haggard was smiling at them as the doors to the ambulance closed and pulled away. A truck pulled up and a few men got out. They took plywood and began boarding up the door to the shop as police were walking in and out. They could see one of them carrying the pillowcase now sealed in a clear plastic bag, evidence stenciled on it in big letters. Others had smaller bags with contents from the shop visible. Quigley turned and walked towards them. "How are you two?" "I'm okay, didn't need stitches," Samantha said, holding up her hands. Large bandages covered both palms. "You don't need to provide a statement unless you want to. Since Officer Ross and I were inside while you were held, we can act as witnesses. These two have multiple priors and we'll have no problem putting them away for a long time," Quigley said.
Thank you for taking the time to listen. Please comment below. We look forward to hearing from you.
If you enjoyed this program, hit the like button and subscribe so you're informed as to when new stories are available.